Monty once again from DPO Surveillance Equipment. I'm as expected, as you might expect, I'm wiping down my car, taking a look at what's planned for the day ahead, which is at this point it's going to be basically going to the gym and working out. As I like to remind a lot of you guys who are interested. Being in good health is a priority. Sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on running our businesses, making money, and such, but very little emphasis is put on actually maintaining our health and improving our health and even optimizing our health as much as possible. Okay? Nothing like being in top physical, mental, and spiritual state as much as possible, okay? So you may want to consider what you can do to optimize your health, diet, nutrition, and all of that. After all, when all is said and done, what do you have, right? What else do you have besides your health when all is said and done? So anyway, wiping down my car, reviewing today's content. I think it's going to be interesting, and hopefully a number of you will get something out of it. Now, you may ask, who am I? That's a good question. I'm owner of DPO Surveillance Equipment. That's a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have perhaps the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent and lay away as well. Huge and growing number of articles, podcasts, blogs, humongous video demonstration library, and so you may want to go there and take a look at those blogs and those articles and the directory, and hopefully you can get something out of it. If you have a need for a special request for us to have us cover a certain topic, let me know, and we'll see if we can cover it for you. Okay? So let's see. We redesigned the website, by the way, and the website is up and running very, very efficiently. It's very quick. I think it's very easy to navigate. Comes up very nicely in the search engines. I do these tests myself to see if it's mobile friendly and to see what keyword searches that we're strongest on and such. We're strongest on like rentals, basically. If you want to do a query on Google or something using words that have to do with renting bug detectors or renting hidden cameras or renting tracking devices, that's typically where you're going to see a majority of our videos and a majority of our links to the website. So you may want to try that. In addition to that, we should have the implementation of accepting the Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum, maybe even Litecoin through the shopping cart. I had implemented it once before on the website, but Coinbase and some of the other guys changed the way that worked on their end, so it was like disabled for a little while. But we're going to put that back into the shopping cart, and this is a Coinbase implementation. So whatever Coinbase offers, hopefully you guys will be able to use that cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, maybe some others. But definitely those three shouldn't be a problem as far as you spending those cryptos on our website and purchasing your favorite spy gadgets with those cryptocurrencies. So look forward to that. In addition to the newsletters going out as we speak, and I'm not going to reveal what it's all about, but for those of you who are on our email lists, you will be receiving that newsletter shortly. So hopefully you guys will. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, and we'll get something out of that newsletter. Excuse me. So now, oh yeah, just want to send a clear signal to the major credit card processors and issuers like Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. We're going to be getting rid of those guys on our website. You won't be able to use those guys for very much longer on our website. You know, you can use them to your heart's content on the other websites, but we decided that because of the way the traditional fiat system works, where you have intermediaries, middlemen, all sorts of restrictions, who can buy what you can sell, customers abusing credit card privileges, buying things they don't want, don't need, can't afford, but because you can charge it on a credit card, it's easy to go back and reverse it and just dispute it with any stupid claim. It doesn't matter. For the credit card companies, they'll let you do anything you want to do with those cards because they're definitely afraid of losing customers who use those cards because they make so much money when you guys fall for that scam called credit card usage. You know, when you use credit cards, you're feeding a monster. It's basically sucking all the financial resources out of the retail industry. The discount fees, the batch fees, the service fees, statement fees, all of this extra overhead increases the cost of doing business, makes us less competitive, makes your shopping experience less enjoyable, mainly because instead of having average everyday low prices for most of the things you buy, we have to compensate for that additional overhead. So that's going to eat into our overhead and cause us to increase costs, prices across the board, basically. So just something you guys want to keep in mind, that you're enabling a system. The traditional fiat system is basically collapsing, and we don't want to feed it. We don't want to feed it anymore. We don't want it to go on any longer than it has to. Let's bypass the banks. Let's bypass the credit card companies. Let's get our own sovereign currency that we can control, that we can keep possession of the private keys, that allows us to send as much money back and forth to our loved ones and relatives, etc., without asking for permission, without identifying who we are, social security number, name, address, phone number, all these things that the hackers end up getting access to. So let's wake up out there and try to figure out how to stop or limit our involvement or eliminate our involvement in that system, okay? Now, today's topic, so what's the name of this article? Today's topic has to do with cybersecurity. And more specifically, the article is entitled, Trump Unleashes U.S. Use of Cyberweapons. Again, Trump unleashes U.S. use of cyberweapons. Donald Trump is currently looking at this particular Obama-era policy directive. More specifically, it's called Presidential Policy Directive 20. And the reason why we know this directive exists is because in 2013, Edward Snowden, that particular contractor who is now famous for letting us get an insight into what the government was doing all along with information and tools and such that weren't necessarily used for the enemies of the United States, but were more or less used and turned towards the citizenry of the United States. People like you and me, we unfortunately become the targets of these people in Washington who get these fancy tools for hacking and intercepting communications and logging where we go, what we do, where we eat, everything imaginable. Those guys, unfortunately, are abusing those tools that they use, and this is no different. This Presidential Policy Directive 20 is all about cybersecurity, and it was designed originally during the Obama administration, and its purpose was to give the government some sort of framework by which they could fight back and counter cyber attacks from the enemies of the United States, whether China, Russia, whoever. We never really had a policy that dictated what we can do and how we're going to do it, and just have something codified so that there's rules and regulations, and give the people of Washington some predictability in terms of what they can do, how they can do it, and all of that. So anyway, this particular policy directive, that's what its purpose is for, to give the government some idea in terms of how to carry out counter strikes against cyber terrorists, for instance, cyber threats and terrorism overall, going over the internet, for instance. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of John Bolton, who was actually working with an individual under him whose name was Tom Bossert. Tom Bossert and Ron, let me see, who is it? Tom Bossert and Ron. I'll have to look at the name, but while I do that, just want to let you know, Tom Bossert was working under the Obama administration originally, I think, and John Bolton, who works for the Trump administration as National Security Advisor, actually let Tom Bossert go or fired him. And I think Tom Bossert ended up going back to the NSA, him along with another individual by the name of Ron, something which I'll get in a moment. But those guys were the top people when it comes to the our ability to execute a cyber policy. But for whatever reason, John Bolton let them go. They both went back to the NSA, and I imagine are working under someone else. Rob Joyce was the other individual I was trying to think of. So the departure of Mr. Bossert and Rob Joyce, who received high marks as Trump's cybersecurity coordinators before returning to the National Security Agency, this fueled a perception that there is a dearth of sophisticated cybersecurity knowledge in the White House. In other words, before these guys actually were forced out of their posts, it looked like we had competent people, and I guess if you want to call it that, working in these departments for cybersecurity. But I have to frame that in a certain way, because in 2014, the NSA actually had certain cyber tools that were stolen, and certain hackers got a hold of those tools and leaked it out onto the internet for sale to the highest bidders, and that didn't bode very well for people who, like myself, who want the government to be responsible and wants the government to understand, look, if you're going to have these tools, and if you claim to be competent and responsible and accountable, you can't let them just arbitrarily go into the hands of the adversaries, the people who want to do us harm. So for me, that was another indication that a lot of government agencies in Washington just aren't prepared to be responsible for housing or controlling or being in possession of valuable tools and information and such. They just don't know how to secure it, basically, is what it comes down to. So that's my opinion, because the shadow brokers was the name of a specific hacking group that got a hold of these tools that were formerly in the hands of NSA, and now the shadow brokers is making these tools available to their subscribers, and you can take possession of Windows machines, control the mic, control the cameras, control all sorts of different things to basically own those Windows computers. So again, for me, I'm not really convinced that the United States government, even with the modified version of this particular presidential directive, number 20, I'm still not convinced that we're ready to, use and control these cyber tools. Only because in the Trump administration and even in other administrations, we don't know ultimately whether or not these tools are going to be used against United States citizens or not. Because it's very easy for someone in some administration to classify you or classify me as being an enemy of the state. You know, if you're really outspoken, just a moment. If you're really outspoken, a really outspoken critic of the government or something, then who knows? Maybe some idiot in Washington will sign off on something stating that it's okay for government workers or whoever to direct these hacker tools against you or me, right? So we really have to be careful in terms of what the government is in possession of and what we can do about it. Now, because I'm a cybersecurity expert, in addition to physical security expert for 20 years plus, I have to warn you guys that you're going to have to take a look at using defenses against people invading your privacy and such. Even if it's the United States government, keep in mind that whenever there's encrypted services on the internet, browsers, SMS or text message services that are encrypted, instant messaging services that are encrypted, whatever it is, you're going to have to start taking a look at these things. And that way you can get some modicum of security and privacy back into your life. Even with Bitcoin and cryptos, there are certain cryptos that are definitely privacy focused. We're going to integrate privacy into Bitcoin very shortly with Dandelion, Snore signatures. The Lightning Network has a certain amount of privacy built into it. But that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to really consider taking matters into our own hands because, again, see, the people in Washington, they can sign off on anything, right? We don't know what the motives are. If you're a Democrat and the Republicans don't like you, if you're a Republican and the Democrats don't like you, whatever it is, we never know. It's just hard to tell what these idiots are going to, how these idiots are going to turn against each other and start monitoring and surveilling each other, particularly when they get a hold of some of these cyber tools. And then, of course, they'll leave cyber tools on a server like the NSA did, and someone will come along and hack into it, and then that'll be it, right? Just like the IRS allowed hackers to get access to a lot of tax records and information, the NSA and a number of the other agencies are pretty much incompetent when it comes to storing that information and keeping it safe. So just giving you guys a heads up to let you know this particular presidential directive is being looked at. The Trump administration supposedly is going to use them to counter cyber threats against others, but we never know who the others are. That's the problem. So you may want to find the most robust encryption services, whether or not it's instant messaging, whether or not it's email, whether or not it's phone, text messaging, whatever service. I'll be publishing this on my website as much as possible, under articles and under blogs and stuff like that. You're gonna find a category called cybersecurity, and typically there, when I find different methodologies to help us gain back our privacy, that's where I put stuff. But in the meantime, keep an eye on Bitcoin, keep an eye on Monero or whatever privacy-focused coins out there, so that at least in the meantime, hopefully we'll have something that's going to protect our transactions, protect the identities as much as possible. But anyway, I'll publish as much on my website as possible. If you guys come across anything, you probably want to acknowledge it and let others know as well. So, because we don't know what the motives are anymore in terms of what's going on in Washington. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll monitor this presidential directive as much as possible. Keep your eyes and ears open. Like I always say, keep your eyes and ears open out there. And you guys stay safe and take care. And we'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.